President Trump ordered Special Prosecutor Bob Mueller to be fired last June. That's according to the New York Times and 4 sources. Former White House Communications Director Anthony Scaramucci joins me now. Anthony is in Davos. That's where the president is. Just for some context here, Anthony, last month you said the president is too smart to fire Mueller. When you said that, did you know what he had been trying to do last June?
I actually didn't know, but it's totally irrelevant because he actually didn't fire Mueller. And I find it very ironic that this information is coming out while he's here in Davos, while he's had great fanfare. And so, you know, you and me, I would love to get a look at somebody like Steve Bannon's phone records to see who he's talking to and how this information is out there. Second thing I will say is that the president talks to everybody. And so this information apparently happened in June. Why is it coming out right now like a big water balloon on the president when he's having a fantastic trip here in Davos, meeting with world leaders, and about to give a fantastic speech about global prosperity and global growth? So
Anthony,
I find this to be one of those nonsensical stories and another red herring in the investigation. Let me just finish, Chris.
No, you did
Chris,
finish.
I got up to come on the show. I missed the Black Eyed Peas
Anthony,
concert. Let me
Anthony,
finish.
it matters too much.
Let me finish.
It can't be a red herring. A red herring is a distraction from what is otherwise important. This goes to the most important questions we're dealing with.
Exactly
the timing
right.
of the reporting.
We're distracting right now from the president's speech tomorrow and all the great things that he's doing here in terms of laying that groundwork. We're distracting from the business CEO leaders meetings that he had today, the meeting with the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and the Prime Minister of Israel, and we're distracting from his speech that he's going to give at 2 p.m. today.
And you think that
on
any
global
of
growth, global peace, and prosperity?
You think any of that matters?
Nearly
Chris,
as much. You guys have had the story for a year. There's no collusion.
Hold on, Anthony.
Where's the collusion evidence in the story?
Anthony, over-talking is not being compelling. They're different things. You're saying, well, I'm tired of hearing collusion. We've learned nothing. You're a lawyer. You went to Harvard Law School.
I'm going to be your media coach because you do that to me all the time.
You went to Harvard Law School.
Yeah, go ahead.
We've heard nothing from Bob Mueller. We have no idea what he knows and doesn't. And we do know that the congressional investigations, with the exception perhaps of the Senate Intelligence Committee, has been nothing but partisan backbiting. So the idea of, well, we've heard enough about collusion, there's no proof of collusion, that's all BS. We don't know anything. The questions are out there, the conclusions will come. The timing of this reporting, to say it is a distraction, there's no basis for that. It sounds like these suggestions about the FBI that the president and others are saying it's not trustworthy on the basis of nothing. Talking about text messages that they had to back off of, notions of a secret group that they had to back off of, saying that texts were missing because it was a cover-up when they knew that wasn't true, and now everybody knows it's not true as a matter of fact. Don't say that the reporting can't be believed because of the timing. Deal with what it is on its face. The White House hasn't denied it. They have 4 sources.
Chris, I did not say that the reporting cannot be believed. I didn't say
just said
dishonest reporting. I was listening. I didn't. I said it's a red herring. He never fired the person.
What's the difference?
You're telling me that inside the... Hold on a second. The president believes that there was absolutely no collusion in the Russian investigation.
Is that why he tried to fire the special counsel?
Him not contemplating the firing. Time out a second. If he thought there was no collusion and he sat down with the White House counsel in a private conversation, the president in a privileged conversation with his attorney. I did go to Harvard Law School, and I know what a privileged conversation is. But I also know that he had interlopers in the White House last June that were leaking information on him that was very unfair. You're telling me that your president is not allowed to have a confidential conversation with the White House counsel?
This is about the truth, Anthony.
Let me finish, Chris.
If Don McGahn hadn't threatened to resign...
You're the one that's over-talking me. You don't want to let me finish.
Because this distraction about it's about leaks and Steve Bannon...
You don't want to let me finish because you know I'm making a lot of sense to your viewers.
You're trying to say don't believe the reporting because it was a leak by Bannon. Who cares?
I did not saying that. Hey, listen, I am not saying that. I'm accepting the reporting. Maggie Haberman is a phenomenal reporter. I listened to her on Anderson Cooper. I am not saying that. Don't say that I'm saying that when I'm not saying that. What I am saying is he didn't fire the guy. He may have had a conversation about firing the guy and then made the decision not to fire the guy.
That's not what the reporting is.
The guy is still in place, Chris, so you can't say that he fired him.
I didn't say he fired him.
The reporting is that he fired him?
No, the reporting is
The
wanted to
reporting
fire
is that
him.
He contemplating firing him.
No, he wasn't contemplating.
Yeah. Okay.
The reporting is
did he fire him, Chris?
ordered McGahn to make the moves to fire him. McGahn said, I will resign if I have to do that. And then the president relented.
You're twisting.
That's the
twisting
reporting.
the story.
That's the
I'm
reporting.
not twisting the story.
I
just
the
accepted
reporting.
the reporting, but why is that coming out tonight?
Because this is when they got it.
His speech.
This is when they got it. It's
Okay,
irrelevant
Chris, come on,
when it
come
comes out.
Point number one, he didn't fire the person. Point number two, the president believes that there was no collusion. Point number three, despite only being in the White House for 11 days, I worked for the president for 18 months. I didn't see any collusion. Point number three, there's been news stories that had to be shot down and people fired over the Russian investigation. Point number four, Robert Mueller is still in his job as a special investigator. He is still in his job, and the president said recently that he expects Mr. Mueller to treat him fairly, and he obviously believes that he's going to be exonerated.
He also
You're telling me that a private conversation...
It doesn't matter if it was
Chris,
a private conversation.
A private conversation with your counsel. What are you talking
Doesn't
about?
matter.
It does matter.
It doesn't at all. Not to the truth of the
conversations
matter
are
asserted. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesn't matter that it was private.
Except
it's what
when you have
did they say?
interloping leakers inside the White House
Again,
trying
irrelevant.
to put a hurt on the president, which is what I said 6 months ago.
Irrelevant.
Not
How
irrelevant.
the information came out is irrelevant. The substance of the reporting is relevant. Don McGahn, if the reporting is to be believed, Don McGahn said, I won't do what you're... Don McGahn said, I won't do what you're ordering me to do. It's bad for you. It's wrong to do. And the president relented. Even if he didn't fire him, which he didn't.
Fire James. Hold on a second. The president fired James Comey.
You don't want to hear the reporting, Anthony. What you ignore, you empower.
You're not listening.
Because you're making these silly points.
I am not ignoring it. I'm trying to tell you that you're focused on something that isn't fair to the president. The president, I'll accept Maggie Haberman's word. I think she's a very honest, very ethical journalist.
Okay. Four sources.
There was that conversation, and there was probably I just said I accept that. But I'm also saying to you, as a lawyer, somebody that did go to Harvard Law School, as you just pointed out, the president is not allowed to have a privileged and private conversation with the White House counsel. No, he isn't, because we got a ton of leakers inside the White House predating my departure on July 31st. And now that water balloon is being dropped on the president when he's about to make a historic speech here in Davos, Switzerland, about global peace and global prosperity.
Right.
The president doesn't think there was any collusion. The decision was ultimately made not to fire Robert Mueller, and the president said most recently that he expects Mr. Mueller to treat him fairly.
Yeah,
so
and
that's
the
my
president
side of the
says,
story.
I hear
you
it.
want to say that you want to say that there is underlying guilt because he wanted to fire him, and there's some kind of anxiety about what happened. And I'm saying the very opposite. He's saying, hey, there was no collusion. This is a bunch of nonsense. He's 4, 5, 6 months into the job, and he's asking for advice from his White House counsel.
It's not what happened.
McGahn
It's not what happened.
Great advice.
It's not what happened, though.
What
See,
happened,
that's
Chris?
the problem.
What happened?
I like your theory. It's creative and protective, but it's also not the reporting. The reporting is he ordered Mueller fired. McGahn refused and threatened to resign. The president has said since he never thought about firing Mueller. If this is true, that's a lie. Secondly, even though he didn't act on it or wasn't allowed to act on it by Don McGahn, it could mean to investigators that he does have the intention to obstruct justice.
Okay. All right, listen, I mean, that's
Am I wrong?
a very good theory on your part.
Am I wrong?
But I actually do, I do think you're wrong.
How so?
In all due respect to your theory, I think you're wrong.
How so?
How so? Because I know the guy, okay? I was there.
So you're saying this didn't happen?
I was part of the campaign. I was on the executive committee for the transition
So you're saying
team.
it didn't happen?
I know John Jr. I would vouch for him. I'm saying what didn't happen.
You're saying that he didn't order...
That the conversation happened with Don...
You're saying he didn't order Mueller fired and Don McGahn...
I have said 4 times in this interview... that I accept the reporting
So
from
if that's
Maggie
what
Haberman.
happened,
So why
how
are you
is
saying
my
that I'm saying it
theory
didn't
wrong
happen?
about what it
4
could mean
times
to
I've said it.
investigators? How is my theory wrong about what it could mean to
Your theory is wrong
investigators?
because I can't get inside the mind of the president, but this is what I really believe happened. He said, hey, there's absolutely no collusion here. Why do we need this unnecessary distraction of a special prosecutor? And McGahn probably told him, hey, look, you can't fire the guy because it'll be a disaster for you. And the president said, okay, no problem. There's no collusion. Fast forward to 3 weeks ago, the president says, I expect Mr. Mueller to treat me fairly.
Right.
The guy never got fired. Okay, period, the end. If the president was that concerned, why wouldn't he have fired him?
Because he was told that it'll be really bad for you, and the guy resigned. And the timing that you're ignoring is this is just when Mueller, in June, had said that they're looking at obstruction of justice. That was reported. Mueller said nothing. But reports came out that they were looking at obstruction of justice. That's when this happened. But we'll take it. Let's leave it at that, Anthony, because I got other things that I have to do.
Let's see. I understand that, and me too. Believe me, it's 3:30
and I
in the
appreciate
morning,
you staying
let's just
up
see
late.
how it plays out. But my bet, my gentleman's bet, there's no collusion. The president's not involved with any collusion, and you'll have to pay for.
I don't want to bet. I want to find out what's true, what's done, and what it means for the process of justice. But I appreciate you staying up late and giving us your take.
Don't say that I didn't say that Don't say that I didn't say the reporting is inaccurate, because I did.
All right,
I
fine.
accept that the reporting is accurate. I just don't like the way you guys are spinning the reporting.
I get
that's
it.
all.
If you accept the reporting, then you accept that the president reportedly ordered Mueller out.